Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very odd, longer and harder. I have with me today a special guest. So typically on Sunday we would do longer and harder, and we would talk about flat Earth nonsense or whatever else. But we are, I have instead I have just someone else with me today. We're gonna do a little bit of talking. I have with me inverse hyperbolic tangent.
Hello. How are you?
Good. So the reason for this is the reason we're doing things a little bit differently today is and you I don't inverse. You let me know if I'm misrepresenting it or misrepresenting you, or I'm not really saying the whole thing. So interrupt me if I am. So the whole reason I have inverse here with me today is a couple of weeks ago I made a video about quartering, and inverse had a bit of a he took umbrage with a lot of the things that I said, and left a lot of comments, and eventually I was just like, just come on here and tell me, and we will discuss it anyway. It'd be a little bit better because I'm not much for sitting around writing and reading comments.
Right.
So that's how we ended up here. So for those of you who aren't aware, you can go watch my video. It's called Quickie with Quartering, not my Shira. So you can go watch that and see my take on that. You can also go watch, there's a link in that video to the original video done by the Quartering, that you can go watch itself if you want more context to that. So that is all the context, I think, for why we are here. And just a quick hi to everybody in the chat. Hello, hello Blueigi, and hello Mistake Not, and hello Sean, and hello Surf Purcell. Blueigi, he's not a fluffer. No, he's not a flat earther, I don't think.
No, I'm an anti-fluffer.
Okay, he's not a flat earther, he's not a creationist, he's not a conspiratard.
No. I've been in the skeptosphere for quite a while, and dealing with flat earthers and SJWs is kind of like, my current hobby.
Okay. And so that's what really brought us here is, I made a case in my video, and I've done this in other videos before, that I see sort of the anti-SJW, anti-feminist skeptic, and I'm going to put that with a whole lot of quotation marks people can't see, that they have just gone full political horseshoe, and they are really no different than the very people that they criticize. And I used quartering as an example of that, and you took issue with that. So you tell me, tell me what your issue was with it.
Well, it's basically a big straw man. It's very similar to how when a theist starts ascribing all sorts of motives and groupthink and whatnot to atheists, you're doing the same thing to this amorphous group you call anti-SJWs, which I suppose that is a thing. There are people who are up in arms about, metaphorically speaking, about SJWs. But when you start ascribing all these character attributes to them, especially to Jeremy, who I've been following not that long, but less than a year, but certainly since January, I think. It's imagine if someone was to come up to you and start ascribing all these beliefs and behaviors that you don't do or have, and then well, of course you're going to say, well, of course that's baloney, and it's up to the other person whether or not they're going to accept that or just continue on with their preconceived notions or bias about who you are and what you believe. So I could, you know what, I think there is actually more context that's relevant to this, because the one, I'm a little bit lost here because I'm looking at different windows now that I have Chrome open. But there's a few, there's two other videos at least that came out before you put your video out, and they both refute your arguments directly. It's like perhaps, I don't know, I'm imagining here, this is speculation, but I'm imagining that you got certain info from certain sites or certain groups or people who are, you know, against the quartering because he has quite a few enemies, so to speak. So I'm wondering, maybe that's what happened, that you got this bad information that he's this terrible person and you didn't look deeper into it.
So I actually just watched Quartering's one video, and that was really it. There really wasn't anything more than that. I don't like, besides looking up I did a little bit of extra research, which is I looked up like what the actual, like the description of it was. I looked at who the showrunner was, Nicole. I forget what her, like I looked up her job history beforehand and things like that. But I didn't actually. I don't actually know who else got involved. I saw a tweet that I kind of retweeted about him, comparing him to Anita Sarkeesian. That's more or less it. But and I'm not even sure that you can even say that, like, I guess since I did kind of call him a creep. I'm not sure that you could still, besides that, like, how to put this, his actions I find to be rather creepy. I don't know him as a person, so I don't know. For all I know, he adopts a puppy every week, and is a fine gentleman all around. And he just happened to have this one behavior that I find creepy. But again, my criticism was about this one behavior that he had here, which is this one criticism of a child character not being feminine enough. I think is how he worded it. And I know that he made, and I have since watched the other videos with it that you say rebuke or debunk my assertions about him, which I entirely disagree, because I don't think he does. I think he just says, no, I don't actually think that it is about being sexy, and I don't actually think it's about boobs. But that doesn't actually, I don't think he's saying that out of the fact that his first video wasn't about that. I think he's saying that more as a reaction to, like, oh, all these people now think I'm creepy. I should say that I don't actually think that, but that doesn't actually make his original argument, which was the one that I was debunking, not an argument that he put forward.
Yeah, but actually he didn't ever say that it's about the character not being sexy.
You're right. He didn't.
So that's already a conclusion you've jumped to.
You're right. He didn't.
And then when he brings up the rebuttal to that, saying, why is everybody, saying this is about being sexy, when I said in my video, it's not about being sexy. It's about this degenderization, if you want to put it that way, of an established character.
So I mean, you're right. He didn't actually say those words. Right. She-Ra isn't sexy. That doesn't mean that's not what he said. He's not the smartest. I mean,
unless you can quote him, or you know what? Maybe what we should do is like watch the video sped up like twice as fast, just to get through it, so we can see, so everybody can see what was said.
We could give that a try. Give me a second here. So I mean, you're right. He didn't, and I entirely agree. He didn't actually say the words "She-Ra isn't sexy," and he didn't say those things. But that doesn't mean that's not what he was talking about, right? He sits around and talks about the lack of femininity. He sits around and talks about, like, the lack of femininity, the lack of and that is what he's getting at. It's the same kind of thing.
But femininity is not the same as sexiness.
So here's the thing. This is the kind of tactic,
ideal and sexualized. There's a difference.
This is the kind of tactic that is used a lot by people who want to talk about one thing, but it's rather taboo to talk about it, so they use code words for it instead. They talk about other things instead. So I brought this up, like,
you're jumping to a conclusion that this is what he's doing.
I'm not jumping to the conclusion. He has a whole video talking about the femininity, which so let's
which is not the same as sexiness.
So how would you make the character She-Ra, like the new one? How would you make her more feminine?
Are you like, did you ever watch it when you were a kid?
No, I'm asking you, how would you make the character of She-Ra more feminine?
I want to get a sense of your familiarity and your like whether you have any attachment to the character, whether you actually care about the character or not.
No, I don't. But that's
Okay.
that's what I meant. Like,
I
so
think that's a major part of the problem here, because for people who did grow up with the character is in contrast, like it's the twin sister of He-Man. Okay,
Mhm.
we got two characters, He-Man and She-Ra. So they're intended to represent the masculine and the feminine. That doesn't mean sexy. Sexy is something that you brought into the conversation.
Okay. So again, if you could answer me, how would you make the new She-Ra character more feminine? What would you do to change it to make it more feminine?
Okay, so I have to make a preface here that his original video, this is another thing that you jump to conclusions about his original video. When he made his original video, we didn't have a lot of information about this new remake. So we didn't know at that time that it was intended to be a young teenager. We thought it was just a remake of the original character. So we thought at that time that it was supposed to be the same adult character, just reimagined.
So Quartering, in the video that I made, Quartering read the description from Netflix where she's called an orphan child or a child orphan or something like that.
Girl.
So
girl.
Sorry, girl. So you thought girl, this still means that she's an adult.
Yeah, you can call an 18-year-old woman a girl. Lots of people.
Okay. So even though the description very clearly said orphan girl, you were still like, no, this is still an adult woman. Or it's supposed to be an adult woman, sorry.
Because the context of the original character is very well established. The original character is clearly an adult. And they're talking about the origin of the character, how she was an orphan girl. Well, maybe that's just her origin. Maybe they're talking about, yeah, she grew up as an orphan girl and now she's become, this freedom fighter or whatever. The point I'm trying to make is that for at least a couple of days, I'm not sure exactly how long, there was a period where people in general only had the original tweet from, what's her name, the artist, which only said, this is the new She-Ra, Princess of Power. It didn't say anything about young girl. Okay, but you say he read the description.
So let me read you the actual description that Netflix has, and I can actually share my screen so that everyone can see that this is the actual description that Netflix put out, that Quartering read in the very video that I made. I quoted him on there, and you all can decide if this is if they're talking about a girl or not. So in this reboot of the 80s series, a magic sword transforms an orphan girl into a warrior, She-Ra, who unites a rebellion to fight against evil. So, I mean, I will let the audience decide, but to me, that's very obviously talking about a girl.
Okay. So what is your age cutoff for a girl?
For girl, I mean, it could be a range, but
could it be an adult?
No, adults aren't women. Women
are
adults.
Adult girls.
Right?
Like, hey, girls, how's it going? Or whatever. You've never used that phrase. Let's say an 18-year-old girl. Like, I just used it right there. You know what I mean? 18-year-old girl, that's not unusual to say. 20-year-old girl. 25-year-old girl.
So let me grant it to you.
I could use it for any number of younger girls.
All right. So let me grant it to you that you didn't know what the show was going to be about. You didn't know, or you didn't know, besides the description and besides that first image, you didn't know the context of this.
Right.
And yet you still felt okay to overreact to it. But without actually having information.
You're jumping to another conclusion. Overreact. Well, that's quite subjective. Overreact according to whose standards? I mean, you just admitted you have no interest in the show. So of course to you it seems like overreacting, but to somebody who grew up with the show, or to somebody who has kids who, they used to watch a show when they were younger and they have kids and they're thinking they might show their kids this show. of course they're going to think this is more important than you do.
So I would call it overreacting because it's because it is something you don't know anything about yet. Right? Like you don't know, and you are overreacting to a single image and a single description about a show yet. Like,
but that's not the full context. The full
you just
context,
said that that's what you had. Like we had this
about
information
about the character, but there's more information about the creator as well and her background.
All right, but do you understand? Even so you think that the more background, you think that more context makes it okay to have this kind of reaction?
What kind of reaction are you talking about? Be a little more specific, please.
The kind of reaction that like Quartering had, where because of this.
Why don't we watch this video? Like that would really help a lot, I think.
So there's a couple of reasons I don't want to watch this video. One is this isn't his show, this is my show.
Right. But you show videos of Eric Dubay and all sorts of other people when you're debunking them. In fact, you already showed clips of Jeremy's video anyway. So what's the big deal?
Oh, okay. So from my end of things here on the technical side, that involves planning. And like I can't just feed audio into Google. It will take me time, and I don't want to do it in a live show.
Okay.
Right? Like there are technical limits. I could do it, but then we'd have to stop everything for a solid 5 minutes.
Okay.
For me to get everything.
Well, how about this? How about we get the text transcript of the show?
That's fine.
And so where should I put this in?
You can stick it in the live chat when next to it if you want to. If you have it open, you can share your screen and then everyone can see it.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that so I don't like bomb the chat, because anybody can go to the video. There's a little 3-dot button and you click on it and you go open transcript. So maybe I'll put it in a document here. Give me a second. I'll just use WordPad. All right. Okay, so how do I share a window?
There's a little green square on your left-hand side of your Hangout. You click on that, and then you click on whatever window you want to share.
That's weird. It won't let me pick a single window.
You have to pick.
Click on application. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Okay, can you see this then?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's your.
That's mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me get the other one. Original video. When I just opened that video, could you hear it?
No.
I guess it's there is a way to do it with the mixer.
There is a beta. Yes, you have to open up a mixer and reroute your sound into your headphones.
Okay.
And
so here it is. Okay. Why don't we, as they say, fisk it. We'll go through it line by line. Successful women out there. Also, oh wait, is that the whole thing? That's not the whole thing. Oh, he must have had extra text in his transcript somehow. It looks like, yeah, 1 sec. Good morning, blah, blah, blah. So you can see what I'm showing here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will present you so that you...
A lot of things probably...
It doesn't get switched when I talk.
Notify Shira. She-Ra, if you don't know, is He-Man's twin sister. He-Man, blah, blah, blah. He-Man was... Okay, so here we go. First of all, Jeremy was a fan of He-Man. I actually was too when I was a kid. And in fact, I actually watched She-Ra as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember how old I was, like between 8 and 10 or so. I wasn't... So he wasn't paying much attention. Except for a few interesting fun facts that came out. So some images were leaked. That's not exactly true. He's mistaken there. They actually came directly from the creator.
Yep. She tweeted them out. I saw.
Don't know this. The original She-Ra. Let's take a look. So he shows some of the original images.
Mm-hmm.
To give the context of what he's familiar with. They really take it back. Just a little joke. Let's jump over to the original show. Okay, so he goes in the description of the original show to give more context. So he mentions that she's a princess. Okay?
Yep.
Sister fights to save the planet. Okay. So the grammar here, maybe they didn't pick up everything he said, but basically he's showing that one character is about male masculinity, and another character is about the female, but also heroic. Clear there, but just empowering is, I guess, the word for it. So, an empowering female character. Then something conspicuous in the reboot. Sorry, I'm a slow reader. Okay, yeah. So it's orphan girl to warrior She-Ra, who unites with rebellion, fight against the evil. So here he's pointing out that it went from a princess to
an orphan.
An orphan. Mm-hmm. And his point in making that is that if you compare the two images that he shows, right, the original and the new one, it's clear that the design was changed.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So the question is, what was changed and why? And so he's setting the stage by talking about how she's this heroic character who represents empowered female, and sorry, 1 second. And he's mentioning the conspicuous changes. So she was a princess. Now she's an orphan. Why is that? That's something to think about.
Now, as one of my fans pointed out, she was an orphan in the first one as well.
In a sense, but they didn't call her that. I mean, the point is has been demoted from a princess. She's no longer royalty. She's just an orphan girl.
Oh, so she's no less feminine for not being a princess.
No. The point is the changes to the character here.
So, but the changes are made to make her less feminine. That's the whole thing, right? Right?
Not all of them.
Not all of them. So this isn't a change that makes her less feminine.
No, I don't think this would affect her femininity. No.
Okay, but it matters somehow, even though he says wait. Even though he says fight against he says it somewhere in here because you were allowed to be feminine back in the 80s, right? There we go. Orphan girl into warrior, she unites rebellion, right? Because it was back. Yeah, so fight against evil. That went from a princess, right? Because that was okay back in the 80s, femininity, you know it. So according to him, her not being a princess makes her less feminine.
Okay, so in his opinion, yes, I guess that's the case. Yep.
Okay, so that, but you don't agree with that. You don't think that
No, because you
Not
can have an orphan girl who's just as feminine.
okay.
But I think the point that he is trying to make, I'm putting myself in his mindset. So I might be talking out of my ass here, but it makes sense to me that a lot of people think this way. Kids, young girls these days grow up with the whole princess archetype, you know, and that's part of their female identity as they're growing up. They have this archetype, they play with it, they pretend they are, and whatnot. So it's a role that women can be in. And his point in the whole video, I think his main point is you have a creator who has an agenda, an SJW agenda based on politics rather than entertainment. And rather than creating her own character, she takes an established character and changes it. And so what the changes are relevant to the discussion.
Okay, before you go any further, I have a couple of questions or a couple of comments as well. So the showrunner, I forget Nicholson, I forget her full name.
Something.
The showrunner, she didn't take an existing franchise and change it. She was given an existing franchise, right? Like
whatever, same thing. She was
when you say she's taken, it makes it control over it. Yeah, but when you say she's taken it, you make it sound like, you make it sound like it's some dastardly plan when like she was given this, right? Like this is for her to do as she pleases. And she was given this by a company, by DreamWorks, who has been doing really, really well on the animation side of things, right? They've done, especially on the Netflix animation and DreamWorks thing has been doing really, really well for them. So she was given this character by a company who has a track record of doing really well with their properties and making money off of it.
I don't see how that's relevant.
Because your whole thing is that
before Star Wars went down the tubes, they also had a really good reputation for making good films. So I don't.
So I mean, not that I'm going to argue against the goodness or badness of Star Wars, but at the end of the day, Star Wars still made a whole lot of money, right?
Not the latest one, not the
Han Solo one didn't, right? But the main ones, the Force Awakens,
money because of the Last Jedi. People hated the Last Jedi, so they
didn't make a lot of money. Like people hate Transformers, right? Does it make a crap ton of money? Yes, yes, it does. The answer is yes. It makes a crap ton of money. It doesn't matter how much.
Defeating your argument there. If you're saying people hate it, but it made a crap ton of money, well, how did it do that? Well, they sold a lot of tickets.
Yes, right? And which is my whole point. It doesn't really matter. Like at the end of the day, do you really think that the DreamWorks cares about the politics of any of this?
I don't think the company does, but you're saying that a company gave the project to her, but it wasn't a company. There was some person within the company who gave the project to this creator. So that person's politics, I don't know the person who it is, but that person's politics might also play a role. They might
wait. Now you're just going into like crazy conspiracy. Like you either know it and you know the politics, and you have evidence that this is why it happened.
Comic books, it's happening all over the place.
Okay, we'll talk about all that. But you're making these claims that like the person who gave this to him might have had political leanings towards something or another.
And you're saying an equally hypothetical scenario that it was just the company did it, and the company has profit in mind, but that's not necessarily true. That's what I'm trying to say.
Wait, you don't think a company cares about profit?
No, I'm saying the company does have profit, but
okay,
when you ascribe the appointing of this creator to this project as being the company's decision, you're kind of implying that that decision was devoid of politics and it was all about profit, but it might not have been. That's my point.
Okay, but sure.
We don't know that. I'm not asserting it.
Okay, but by the same token, you don't know that it was given to her for politics. Like if we're gonna go this route, then neither of us know.
I don't know that. Yes, okay. Exactly. Good.
Okay, then neither of us know if this was a political thing or not a political thing. The decision to give this woman the idea, or the property. We have no. So there wasn't a giant scheme.
No,
well, at least not that we know of. We don't know if there was a giant scheme by DreamWorks to make Shira an SJW, whatever.
Agreed. We don't know that. I agree.
Okay.
However, we do know that once she got the project, she made changes.
Okay.
And she was the one in charge of those changes. So her politics are relevant.
So okay. I asked you this earlier, and you haven't answered me yet. How would you make the new Shira character more feminine?
I don't see the relevance of that question because it's not.
Well, if you think she's less feminine, then you must have some idea of what she would be like if she was more feminine. That's what I meant. Like what would make this character more feminine that it wouldn't be this, less feminine version? Like somewhere in your brain, you have this idea of what a more feminine version of Shira would be like, and that's what I'm asking for.
Okay. So again, I have to make the distinction between the two time periods. The time period before we were aware that it was intended to be a young girl, and the time period after. So if we're talking about the time period before, then it's clear that physical characteristics have a lot to say about the changes that were made. But if we take into account that it's supposed to be a young girl, then I can say, well, of course, not physically mature yet, so that those kinds of changes aren't as relevant. However, I would say that simply the hairstyle alone, in the one main image that was given, is has been critiqued by many people as looking like a boy's haircut with this strange bunch of flowing hair behind it that seems detached from the head. And
I'm gonna bring that image off because I don't know how long blonde flowing hair can be masculine, but we will bring that up. And
well, if you're talking about a fantasy character, you've got lots of long flowing blonde hair fantasy characters. And in fact, He-Man himself had kind of longish hair. It wasn't long, but it was longer than.
But just so that the audience can see what we are talking about.
Adrian Espinel. Oh no, a woman with a boy's haircut. Well, if it was a woman with a boy's haircut, yeah, that would be making her less masculine. But in fact, it's a girl with a boy's haircut.
So it's a boy with long. Sorry, it's not a boy. I'm sorry. Shira here is a girl with long flowing golden hair.
Have you put it up? Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the image you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So long flowing blonde hair is not feminine enough for you.
It's not about being feminine enough for me. It's about what changes were made to the character.
So as opposed to this long flowing blonde hair.
Which is, hidden behind that cowl. So yeah, we can't tell how it's attached, but it doesn't look unusual. I want to pull up a tweet if I can. Hold on. But go on. You can, while I'm looking for it, you can.
So okay, while you're looking for things, I'll read some of the things. Adrian, we read that one. One of the leaders of the village the heroes live in, and the second village during the runtime of the series. I don't know who that is. Tsunade was flat-chested when she was still younger, and even mocked for it. Oh, in Naruto she was. I don't mind the new Shiro design. I don't mind the new Shiro design. She looks like a girl. So did she borrow her brother's shirt? Kind of looks like that, doesn't it? The new Hira has a stronger jawline than the quartering himself. So that's what I. Huh?
Hira. Is this person talking about the Hira or Shira?
I think he's making a joke about it, Mr. John.
Oh.
So that and that actually goes to my question, Mr. John, that maybe I can get an answer to, which is how you would make this a more feminine character, because to me she's got a lot of the what we were traditionally find as signifiers for a female character: long flowing hair, skirt, even though she's wearing shorts underneath, which is a thing that I don't know, I don't wear skirts, but I think that's it's a modern thing that women wear shorts under their skirts, which for a modern cartoon makes sense that women would wear shirts. I'm also thinking that the animation will be probably much better than it ever was in the 80s, and you will get probably more dynamic angles, which will and a more dynamic movement out of her. So having her wear shorts makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, people don't complain about the shorts.
Really. Yeah, but I'm just that's one of the things. So she's wearing to me she's got a lot of the signifiers for a female character: the flowing hair, the skirt. So what I'm asking you is what you, and you still haven't answered me, what you would change with this character to make her more feminine.
Again, the point is not what I would change. This is not what I, you know, I'm not the creator here. I didn't make the changes. The changes were made by the creator. And so the relevance to the discussion of what changes were made is about what changes were made. So how maybe we should talk more about what changes were made and decide whether this is whether they represent being more feminine or less feminine.
Okay, if that's the way you want to tackle it, that's fine.
I found the tweet, so I can post this in the chat. Is that right?
You can try. I doubt you will be able to, but you can also share it on your screen if you have it open on your screen. You can share it on your screen. Okay. And while you do that, there was a comment by Sean Caro. DreamWorks has a history of making characters timely for their audience target. They really do. Hiccup, and I forget what her name is in How to Train Your Dragon are very good examples of that. I think they do the same thing in the show, the DreamWorks Race to the Edge, I want to say, show. They do something similar where they do make the characters rather timeless in their own way, or sorry, timely, so relevant. And same thing with the Voltron series. The characters very much so look like they are now, as or like what we expect. Like they look like they were pulled straight out of the 2000s, the late, the whatever 21st century, rather than the original one, the original show. And I think in that one they even changed the gender of one of the characters, but I don't remember Voltron well enough. But I think in the new Voltron they changed the genders of one of the characters to a lady. I think the original Voltron team was all dudes, and now one of them is a lady, and then they switched around the Voltron team, so now there's two ladies on the team.
Okay, so I have the image to show you. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is that just on first glance, is that a boy or a girl? Looks like a boy. You can see. Can you see my mouse pointer?
Okay. Yep.
You can see the big triceps, the breadth of the shoulders. One comic book artist, very famous guy, said in a male character, the breadth of the shoulders should be about two height of the head across. So if you turn the head sideways, there should be like two heads. And he said this is probably about 1.5, so it's bordering. It's approaching male proportions.
Okay.
Of course, you can't really judge the hip-waist ratio in a young child, so that doesn't fit here. But if we were talking earlier about before we realized it was supposed to be a young character, then the hip-waist ratio would definitely play a factor here. So if you look at the original character, I don't have one of those off the top of my screen here, but that's a well-known signifier of the difference, physical differences between males and females in humans, is the hip-waist ratio. In women, the ideal is considered 0.7. In men, it's considered 0.9. And there's lots of research to back that up. So now watch carefully, and we'll go back to the original. And all that was changed was you simply take all of that out. Like this line here makes it look like this is the hairline, and there's some sort of weird, maybe it was poorly drawn or whatever, I don't know. But the way it looks, the way people interpreted it at the beginning was, it looks very much like the creator, which okay. And the reason this guy changed it to brown hair was to match her hair, to show that the similarities were there.
So the creator isn't feminine enough for
No.
Well, you just this is your whole argument, is that they made her less feminine by making her look like the creator. So according to you, the creator isn't feminine.
Let me finish, okay? The creator is this other person, Diversity in Comic, said she's a boyish-looking lesbian, which is true. Okay, that's a style. Now, of course, she's feminine because she's female, but in that style, you take on more masculine-looking traits. It's like a butch lesbian looks more masculine than a whatever the other kind of lesbian is, like lipstick lesbian or something, right? You can accentuate the male or the female and have different effects. So he was saying, basically that was his point, is that the creator essentially molded the She-Ra to look like her, in a sense, to look like her idealized self-image.
Okay, as opposed to your idealized image of a woman, or quarterings, or whoever else.
But you're taking this as if it's just one individual's. But the point is, again, this is an established character that already had a look that was obviously very feminine.
Okay.
In contrast. Okay. So what changes were made? Well, the character was made to look more like a boyish young character. So when you say that, for instance, when you say that, gotta form my thoughts here. Sorry, when I'm saying what changes were made, I'm saying that the changes were made to make it look more boyish. Okay, some of those changes are natural because it's a younger character, but you can go. The point is not that it looks like a boyish lesbian. It literally could be a boyish looking boy rather than a boyish looking girl. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this looks like a boy.
I mean, yes, if you get rid of some of the female signifiers, like long flowing hair, it does look like a boy. Can I ask you which signifiers were removed here? The long flowing hair,
and that's it.
Yes. So if you get rid of long flowing hair in a girl, it kind of looks like a boy. I mean, yes. That's like, have you seen Stranger Things? Have you seen 13 without hair? She kind of looks like a boy because she hasn't developed yet. Like that was something that I brought up in the video. Like at that age, yeah.
Okay, I want to show you some of the fan art that fans of this new creation are making. And let's see. Maybe I should put in Netflix or something.
Actually, okay, I'm gonna have you not share your screen while you do this if you want to show off fan art, because fans have a tendency to draw titties. And while I enjoy a good amount of them, you find one that's appropriate first and then show it to us, because I don't want this video to be taken down.
Stop sharing. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. Even in adults, there's such a thing as androgynous. So there's that, says Darth Killer.
Yeah, but this isn't androgynous Ra. This is She-Ra. So it's intended, the character has already been established years and years ago, decades ago, to be a character that represents a kind of idealized feminine. So you can have an androgynous character, but why take an existing character and reshape it into that? Why not create your own character? And that's my other point. She already had a bunch of characters that she created called lumberjanes. And why didn't she just continue with that? Well, because she was given this much more popular, much more well-known through what's that called, nostalgia, this nostalgic character. And the whole point of being a nostalgic character is to attract the fans who were younger. And so, you know, if you're going to attract the same fans and change everything on them, you know, you're defeating the purpose. A lot of people will say, well, this character isn't for you. Well, who's it for then? It's for kids. Well, whose kids? The kids of parents who like the original show. So if you're taking an established character and basically SJWizing it in order to, for whatever reason, okay, I'm not going to try to read her mind, but it's clear that there's some sort of reason for why she changed the character to look this way.
And that reason can't be anything benign, like she wants it to look more like the people that are actually going to interact with these, that, you know, look more like her audience. Like, okay, it can't be anything that benign, right?
That's the point of me trying to bring up some fan. Maybe look up the fan art. That's the point.
Okay, you look up the fan art, but like, like I've said this before, if I were going to write a character for modern audiences, I would make it look more like that, like my target audience. Which is different than how things were done in the 80s. In the 80s, we did have sort of supermodel looking characters, and the times have changed so that now you have more characters that look, you know, that aren't these super feminine, super masculine characters, but you have more characters that look more like what their audience would look like.
And that would make sense if it wasn't an established character and didn't have this iconic mythological purpose of representing kind of an idealized feminine person, or a hero, actually, not just a person but a hero. So the point of the original show was to show that you know, you can be strong and beautiful and just as heroic as the male counterpart. So she was literally his twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
That has a, you know, that has quite a significant.
So if she's not feminine enough, she can't be heroic enough. Like, you can't have a orphan girl with.
Can you acknowledge that the character She-Ra is supposed to represent feminine? In a
I don't. I mean, if you wanted to, sure.
No. Not about me wanting to, about what it means to the culture at large.
I never watched it, and I have no real history with it. So
and I think that's part of the main problem, is that you're jumping in here with certain assumptions and you don't even care about it. It's like
no, I genuinely don't care about this cartoon show. Exactly. You're right, I don't.
Exactly.
Which is why I call of this like overreaction.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let me just say, R&D, that honestly, I got to say that, you know, how you react to these flat earthers, it's such an overreaction.
Yeah, it is.
Because I don't care about flat earthers.
Oh no, you're absolutely
right. I don't care
about
creationists. So yeah. Why do you overreact to this stuff?
No, I am entirely. I've made videos about the fact that I overreact to flat earthers. You are 100% correct.
Okay. So
I've talked about how I promote flat earthers probably more often than I actually put them down. So I have a whole video about this. Like, entirely understand.
So how is that different?
How is it different?
Aren't you an extremist?
The fact that I admit what I am doing, I'm not hiding behind it, right? Like, I admit that I overreact. Okay. Like,
whether you admit it or not,
there's this R&D that you're talking right now to, right? There's R&D that does live shows that interacts with his fans, and then there's R&D in videos, and R&D in videos overreacts. He does it for humor. Part of my overreaction is to humor.
That's not the same thing. You're talking about overreacting in a political sense, like this doesn't matter. Not overreacting for effect, for humorous effect. You're talking about, well, he shouldn't even be making this video, essentially.
I mean, not quite. He can do whatever he wants. It's less of that.
What are you saying?
What am I saying is that my critique is that he has become the very thing that he's complaining about, nitpicking about little things that don't really matter in the big scope of things, while he complains that other people do the same thing.
So hypocrisy.
Yes.
Okay.
Like the whole thing is just this. We have reached the horseshoe theory of politics.
Aren't you right now complaining about something that you yourself admit doesn't matter?
Yes, but I've already said, this is the whole point of like.
You also a hypocrite then?
No, because I'm telling you that's what I do. Like,
it doesn't matter if that's what you do. It's you're complaining about somebody else who's doing the same thing.
No. So what quartering and what quartering is actually talking about is like how how all of this is just a giant conspiracy that's going to ruin the world and it's going to ruin all the things that we all love. And feminists and SJWs are taking everything. It's this giant conspiracy.
Can you quote him saying that?
No.
So why are you putting words in his mouth?
Does he not believe that this is a big problem?
That what is a big problem?
That SJWs taking over media is a big problem.
Okay, well, I will give you my interpretation, what I think he believes, but I can't speak for him, obviously. Yes, he thinks there's a big problem with SJWs invading hobby industries and hobby media and changing the media and changing everything about it so that it no longer appeals to the original fans. And as a result, they're ruining these industries.
Okay, so he does actually think that this is a problem.
In his case, he's mostly focused on Magic the Gathering and other games and things. And for him, there's direct consequences. Okay, I'll give you, are you aware that he was beat up on, was it a couple of days ago? By an SJW?
No, I really haven't been. I don't pay attention to quartering.
So yeah, I know, because you don't really care, right?
No.
So you're jumping into the situation where you don't know the context, you don't know what's gone on before, and you're jumping to a lot of conclusions about his character, and like you're not even aware that just I don't know exactly what day it was. It was like 2 or maybe 3 days ago. He was attacked by a guy out of the blue. He's at Gen Con, I think, and a guy attacked him, and it was completely unprovoked. He was sitting with his friends. The guy came up and said, "Are you Jeremy Hambley?" And he turned. He thought it was somebody who knew him, so he turned to say hi, and the guy started attacking him.
Okay.
And you look into that, and why did it happen? Well, it's because this person was alerted to Jeremy's presence at Gen Con by some other guy on Twitter, and it was in response to Jeremy saying, Jeremy critiquing or criticizing Anita Sarkeesian.
Okay, that's fine. So this.
How is it fine? That's kind of funny way to put it.
Yeah, whatever. Because I don't care. So his whole.
You don't care about somebody getting attacked?
People get attacked all the time. I don't have the time and effort to like care about every last person who gets attacked for something. I've been punched in the face. You don't see me like coming on here and bitching about it. Like it happens. The police will deal with it. That's fine.
You're talking about the motives of Jeremy Hambley, and you don't know his personal experience. You're not aware that he's facing this kind of whatever you want to call it, abuse, and I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to use words like that because they're
so a guy goes on the internet, spews a bunch of shit, and then he gets backlash for it. Like that's the internet. Like
you're jumping to conclusions again. Spews a bunch of shit. What shit? You don't even know what shit. You said you've only seen this.
So Anita Sarkeesian does the same thing. She goes on the internet, spews a bunch of shit, and she gets some backlash for it.
Does she get physically attacked and injured?
So everybody who does this kind of thing on the internet goes on the internet, spews a bunch of nonsense, and then they get backlash for it. Maybe Jeremy's backlash was a little bit more physical than it should have been. I don't think he should be attacked, but just because there's a difference in the severity doesn't mean that he's getting the same kind of treatment that everyone else gets for going on the internet and saying shit. I go on the internet and yell at flat earthers and I get shit.
Do you get physically attacked?
What happens when you go on the internet and say things?
You get physically attacked.
No, again,
not?
I already acknowledged that
Why not?
that there's a physical discrepancy.
Yeah.
Fucking Richard
Because,
Spencer gets punched in the face. People get punched in
you know
faces
what?
for saying shit on the
That's
internet.
that's actually very relevant. Why does Richard Spencer get punched in the face? Because there's memes going around punching Nazi. The guy who attacked Jeremy Hambley happened to be not a day earlier or whatever, happened to be wearing a shirt saying, I punch Nazis. Coincidence?
No, it's a conspiracy. So
No, it's a fucking ideology, dude.
okay. All right. I need you to still.
Pardon me for swearing. I apologize.
No, you can. Fuck, have you not watched what I do?
Well, yeah, but you know, I don't want to become, you know.
No, I don't.
I want to keep it a civil discussion.
That doesn't. Whatever. It's fine.
Can I show you some fan art?
You can, if it's safe for work. Yes.
Yeah, it's totally safe. All right. So here, the point is that there is lots of fan art like this. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. There's lots of fan art like this, and in every case, okay? Can you see my mouse?
Yeah. Yep.
In every case, so eyelashes popping up on the side. Okay, that's a supposedly feminine characteristic. Not by me. I didn't decide this. Whoever made this decided that. Okay, but it's typical in all sorts of cartoons and whatnot. You want to make something look like a female, you put two little eyelash things on the side of it. It could be a toothbrush or whatever. Okay, this is something that makes something look feminine. So we go back to the original. Where did it go? Oh, I guess it's in a different window. The original doesn't have that.
So is that something that should be changed to make it more feminine? Is add eyelashes?
No, I'm not saying should be changed. I'm talking about what's been changed. And even the fans of this creator's artwork, when they make fan art, they make it look more feminine than the original artist does.
Okay, and what do they add to make it look more feminine? They add
I guess
eyelashes.
They add a softer, like a rounder face structure.
Okay, so
a more feminine pose, more obviously connected hair. Like it's not just tacked on or like there's not a hairline that goes like this. The hair is actually part of the, you know, it's actual long hair, not just like a ponytail or something. This character has a kind of a poofy or whatever you call that type of hairstyle. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not the one who decides these things. I'm just pointing them out. I'm just saying that the fans of this artist themselves, like this does not look like the same kind of arms as the original.
Okay, so your argument right now is fans have different artistic taste than the artist does.
I'm saying that the character design that the artist made is a lot more masculine than you seem to be giving it credit for.
Well, I've been asking you to tell me how to make it more feminine, and you haven't been able to do that.
And I'm turning to fans to answer that question.
So add eyelashes.
The fans themselves are creating features that are more feminine than the original artist's work.
So more eyelashes or actual eyelashes.
In one case, it's eyelashes. In another case, it's a pose.
So
I don't know what.
So standing facing your enemy is not feminine enough. You have to sit there daintily.
Does this look like a boy or a girl?
So I mean,
if I removed the hair, if I cut off the hair like that and like that, would it look like a boy or a girl?
A girl, I guess.
Yeah. Now, in the other one, it looks like a boy.
So this kind of sitting daintily is more feminine than actually staring down your enemy.
Apparently, that's what the fans.
No,
say.
I'm asking for your opinion. I don't know why you keep you're doing the same thing that Jeremy did.
Relevant,
right?
No,
relevant. Because you're being, and I'm going to be a little bit mean here. You're being a little bit of a coward. You're doing the same thing that Jeremy did, and where he's not really saying anything about her boob size, or he's not really saying anything about how masculine and feminine is. He's just sharing what everyone else is saying and kind of agreeing with them. I'm asking you what you think would make it more feminine.
But I don't. Okay, the problem is that you are attacking a straw man and asking me to defend it. It's like the atheist debating a theist, and the theist says, "Well, why don't you just admit that you don't believe in anything?"
No,
Well,
I'm
that's
asking.
not my position.
Okay, so you don't think.
You're asking me to
Okay,
put
then
my opinion forward. That's not relevant to.
let's start then at this. Do you think that the new Shira character is feminine or masculine?
I think it has taken an existing, established, very well established character and has intentionally taken steps to defeminize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you, in your opinion, add to make her more feminine?
It's not about what I would add, it's about what was subtracted.
No, it is so it is about what you would add, or
No, it isn't.
right? Because if so, here's the thing: if you're subtracted something, then you can add it back in to make it more feminine. What would you add? What things were subtracting that you would add back to make it more feminine?
Okay, the problem is the age change. If it's a if we're talking about an adult to adult transformation, then I could start giving you answers to that. But the problem is that it's a young child, and so this is why I brought up the fan art, because I don't have that kind of like, I'm not a visual arts type of person. So I'm looking for what other people put in on a young child based on the same design, and what did they do to make it more feminine? Well, I can see that the face looks different. There's obvious makeup it looks like. There's different things. Okay, so maybe makeup. There you go. There's one thing.
Okay, so adding makeup makes the girl more feminine.
It could. I mean, it would probably. Yeah.
Okay, it would make her more feminine.
Probably.
So even though she's a warrior, and you know the
original
need
Shira had makeup. Why
the
doesn't
need for makeup is a little silly, but she should still wake up in the morning to make sure her makeup is.
Dude, you're arguing about an established character. The original character already has makeup. She wears red rouge or whatever on her lips.
Yeah. So in order. So
Right.
this isn't about. So you keep searching between it being feminine and it being about an established character. Like which is more important, I guess? Is it that she's not feminine or that she's not the established character?
Take a look at this character. Makeup, makeup, makeup.
Okay.
There you go.
So in order for her to be both feminine and stay with the original character, she needs to wear makeup.
No, what I'm saying is the new design has been changed. And what are the differences? If you take this character and look at, and then the new design, what has been changed? Well, some makeup has been removed. The long eyelashes, look at it, it's even here. The long eyelashes have been removed.
Okay, so again, I'm asking you, if we add that back in, you think that she'd be more in line with the established character and more feminine?
She would have fewer differences from the established character. Yes, that's true.
Okay, so that's what she needs to be more feminine and more.
I didn't say needs. I'm just saying what has been changed. I'm not demanding.
Well, the problem is I'm trying to figure out which one you care about more. Is it the change of the established character, or is it the change to her, to how feminine she is?
I care actually about the politics that are being inserted into the storylines.
So a girl being a girl is now politics.
The creator defeminizing an established character, which is something I got to tell you that's been happening all over the place. This is not the only example. This is
okay. So this is part of the SJW.
Have you seen the Thundercats remake?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't watched it. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, in there, you've got the same kind of thing going on. It taking a serious, established storyline and characters with their own mythology, and turning them into a slapstick goofball piece of crap.
Okay. So
this is an established pattern. This is not just one instance of She-Ra.
Okay. So the SJW agenda, feminist SJW agenda, is to take characters and make them less feminine. That's the agenda.
Some SJWs interpret it that way and do that, yes.
So the whole
Not all of them. Some of them.
so the whole Thor being a girl, that's not SJW agenda.
That is also, as far as I know, I'm not that familiar with that particular one, but as far as I know, it fits the pattern.
So being more feminine fits the pattern, and being less feminine fits the pattern.
No, so again, you're jumping to conclusions that this is some unified SJW. You know, they're all on the same page, like it's a giant conspiracy, as you say. They don't have to all be on the same page. They can all have their own interpretations of how best to shape the culture, as they might say.
Okay, so people changing characters.
How best to introduce diversity, for instance.
So people changing characters is a political issue. Like, it's not a political issue. I shouldn't say that. It's people changing established characters is motivated by politics. Because you have one character that was made more feminine, and that's
it's an indicator. It's an indicator. Okay, it's a piece of evidence.
Okay, so when Transformers Beast Wars came out, and they changed Optimus to a gorilla, that was part of a agenda somewhere.
Maybe not in that case.
How do you tell the difference between when it is and when it isn't?
Tell the difference by looking at all the evidence.
Well, okay.
That's something that you haven't done. You've avoided looking at the evidence. You've only looked at a narrow slice of the pie, and you're drawing conclusions based on not enough evidence.
So okay. What I'm trying to get at is that this isn't a giant conspiracy, but it's just a trend of people things changing over time, which is something that happens. And if you don't like it, then you say that it is part of the conspiracy. And if you like it, you just let it be. Like, nobody batted an eye when one of the Voltron characters turned out to be a girl.
Drawing this conclusion? You haven't been paying attention to this whole issue.
Because I see a pattern of Thor is now a girl, therefore SJW. Ghostbusters are now girls, therefore SJWs. This girl is now a male, therefore SJWs.
Iron Man has been placed by a girl.
Yeah. So if it gets replaced by a girl, it's SJW. If it gets replaced by a male, it's SJW.
How about Iceman? Do you know the whole background about Iceman?
I'm just asking, like, they
turned him into a gay character.
Okay.
And he has a long established history of being straight and a womanizer.
So that's what I'm saying. It's any change.
All of a sudden, they turn him gay.
Any change that you don't like is SJW attacking the thing that you like.
The point, man. You keep jumping to conclusions. It's not about in a lot of cases, people don't like it. But the reason they don't like it is not that, he's suddenly gay. It's, hey, what are you doing to this established character?
Like, but you said it was politically motivated that this changes.
Politically motivated. It's to introduce diversity.
So Optimus Prime turning into a gorilla was politically motivated.
No,
it had nothing to do with just benign the fact that times change.
That I brought up, changing Iceman into a gay man, changing Iron Man into a teenage black girl, changing who knows else. I'm not actually. I don't follow comic books as closely as other people do, but there's all sorts of examples that they have shown, and it's a pattern. And they take existing characters that have fan bases that people, they buy the comic books, then they change the character, it becomes quote unquote diverse, but now the character, that's all they're about. It's so the gay version of Iceman wasn't Iceman, but now he just happens to be gay. No. They had to write the stories all about him being gay, and now everything is now him being gay, and that's the only thing about the story. So basically, they're ruining stories. They're ruining these characters, and they're trying to say, well, you know what? If you don't like this, you're just a racist, homophobic bigot. And we don't want your money anyway. So what's been happening is people are like, well, okay, fine then. I'll stop buying the character. And then sales go down, and Marvel is collapsing, and many of the major comic book companies are collapsing because of this. So what's essentially and there's all sorts of bullying online about these different creators. They'll, you know, were you around for Atheism Plus?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember Atheism Plus?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you say that that was political? That there was a kind of an agenda to take over the so-called atheist movement and insert themselves into all these conventions and things?
I wouldn't. I would. I wouldn't. But that's just me.
So, did you did you did you pay attention to Elevator Gate?
It's been a long time, so I'm not even. It's been forever since I've done that.
Okay. Well, anyone who's paid attention to Elevator Gate would see this kind of pattern, and it's the same exact pattern. It's happened in Gamergate. This is not just She-Ra. It's not just television shows. It's not just comic books. It's happening all throughout many different areas of culture. And I mean, the fact that you don't care about it doesn't mean it's not important.
So okay, and I want to point out a little bit of a what I guess why I don't care is because if again, if you don't like it, don't give these people money. Let them go under, right?
And
Let
then you're
the
oddly-
wait.
then you're
Let the what's it called? Let capitalism
Industry
take over, right? Let capitalism take over, like
Mhm.
right. If it's good, it'll make money. Not if it's good, right? If it's popular enough, it'll make money. If it doesn't make money, the companies will either change their way. So if making Iron Man a black lady isn't making Marvel enough money, do you think they're going to keep on that track, or do you think they're going to switch back to making
You know
it
what the
Tony
problem
Stark?
is? The problem is, man, that this has gotten into the management, and so yes, they are keeping on that track.
So you think that these companies are going to run themselves into the ground?
That's exactly what's happening.
Okay, so then let them. What exactly is the problem, right? Like, it's a bad idea. Let them run themselves into the ground.
So, do you have any hobbies?
Yeah, I have my hobbies. Yeah.
Can you give me an example just so I have something to work with?
Oh,
Something you spend money on.
Something I spend money on.
Yes.
Video games, I guess.
Okay, video games. Well, there's a perfect example. Do you care about Gamergate?
No.
Why not?
Why? Because at some point it turned out to be a bunch of racist assholes on the internet.
Ooh.
And I want nothing to do with that.
Ooh, you think Gamergate is a bunch of racist assholes?
No, I said at some time it turned into a bunch of racist assholes on the internet.
Ooh. Who are you talking about?
Who specifically? I don't want to get off of this idea that
there you go. You just don't care about it. People who have followed Gamergate know that it's not a bunch of racist assholes on the internet. That's the story that SJWs have fed the mainstream media.
So the mainstream media. So this isn't a conspiracy, but the mainstream media is in on it.
Are you aware of the Jesus Christ, man? Are you aware of the group, the mailing group called Game Journal Pros?
No, I really don't.
So you're really out of your depth. You're really talking about a subject that you have no idea about, because Game Journal Pros literally was a place where people shared their the topics that they were going to write about, and they coordinated with each other, and it literally was a conspiracy. Now, conspiracies exist, okay? Conspiracy theories, on the other hand, are a dime a dozen, okay? But if you can prove that a conspiracy happened, then it did. And conspiracies are not something that is purely nonsense, like woo, like what's it called? Using water, what's it called?
Homeopathy.
Homeopathy, right? Something like that. That's obvious. That's clearly scientifically been debunked. Anybody who believes that is not thinking rationally. Okay.
Okay.
But anybody who thinks that people in Game Journal Pros did not orchestrate a whole bunch of articles saying gamers are dead, all on basically the same day or the same couple of days, all with the same thesis, all with the same, but all with their own individual takes on it. Anybody who thinks that didn't happen, just because it's quote unquote a conspiracy theory, they don't know. They don't know when to how am I trying to say this? They're not taking the reality of actual conspiracies seriously. It's like they're in denial of conspiracies. Like, okay, I'm not a typical conspiracy theorist. Most conspiracy theories I hear, I'm as skeptical, if not more skeptical, than most people. So
right now you're making me doubt that with your conspiracies about SJWs taking over the mainstream media and using it to, like, so
the problem is though that you don't have any knowledge of this area.
Yes,
so
I'm not woke enough for this. I understand
it's not
that.
being woke. It's about looking at the evidence.
Exactly. I'm not woke enough. If I looked at the evidence close enough, I could become a flat earther. If I look at the evidence close enough, I would know. If I would just stop, with the indoctrination that I've gotten from the mainstream media, which are run by the SJWs, I could understand your point. It's not that you could actually give me evidence. No, it's that I'm not looking at it close enough, right? I'm indoctrinated into the SJW.
Okay. So you haven't even looked at evidence.
No, I haven't. Apparently.
Well, there you go.
So give me evidence of this. That's not because so far what you've given me is
journal pros. Oh, look, it's right on the top of the list there.
So far what you've given me is that SJWs want to make characters less feminine, and they also want to make them more feminine. And this is all part of the conspiracy to take over all the things that people like.
No, it's do you not even know SJWs and how they think?
I don't. I mean, if we're gonna just group people together, we can sit here
following the subject.
I mean, so even there, right? I want to talk about the sentence that you just said, which is, don't you know how SJWs think? No, I don't, because they're not a fucking collective. Like you just grouped a bunch of people who the hell knows what their opinions are and said, don't you know how they think?
Do you know how flat earthers think?
No, I don't.
You don't know how any flat earthers think?
No, I can tell you specifically how some flat earthers think.
Okay, do they have
to sit here and for me to group them all together and be like, all flat earthers are X, all flat earthers do X?
I did not use the qualifier all.
Do you know how SJWs think?
Do you know how flat earthers think?
Again, I can tell you about individuals, and if you want to sit here and talk about individual people and individuals who have individual ideas, we can talk about that. But the fact that you're like you're insinuating that all SJWs think one way.
Let's look for some common ground here. Would you acknowledge that flat earthers as a collective, not as an entirety, but as a collective, let's use some statistical language here. Flat earthers, statistically speaking, think a little bit differently than the average population. Would you agree with that statement? Maybe their bell curves overlap. Maybe their bell curves overlap, but they have different means or something, or maybe different standard deviations.
No, I would not say that they think differently than most of us. I think they think like the rest of us. They just lack some skills in certain places, or don't think critically. But you're going into like they think differently. Like thinking differently is such a broad term that I can't.
Yeah, it's intended to be broad.
Yeah, that's the problem with it.
I'm looking for some common ground here.
No, what you're doing is you're trying to make a group of people into a collective so that you can put them all together, and so as opposed to like talking about individual people.
So
so tell me about an individual SJW and what they think about X, and then we can talk about that.
Okay, remind me. Oh yeah, let's talk. Okay, how about why don't we use the obvious example, Anita Sarkeesian?
Okay,
she thinks everything is political, and everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything is whatever, and you have to point it all out. And she says this all the time.
Okay.
So there's something she thinks. Everything is political. That's a fairly typical, common SJW type of belief. Just like,
and you did it right there. It's a typical SJW
type of belief.
What her
okay, you know what? A lot of Christians believe that Jesus died and was raised from the dead for their sins. Is that wrong to say? Just because a lot of people think it? That's how they think. They think Jesus died.
So you're comparing a group of people. You're comparing a group of people whose one connection is a book that they follow, and another group of people who don't have a group. Like, and you're putting me in a really annoyingly awkward situation where I have to defend a group of people that I really don't disagree with, that really don't agree with at all. But I have to defend them only because what you are doing is the same thing that you accuse of me doing, which is that you're straw manning and you're creating this whole group mentality for a group of people instead of actually talking about individual issues and individual thought.
Okay, but can you explain to me how this is different than talking about what Christians think?
Say what?
Can you explain to me how it's different than talking about what Christians think? Because there's a whole bunch of different kinds of Christians.
Yes, there are.
They all follow different parts of the Bible, and they all believe different things.
Exactly.
Okay, so the book itself is not necessarily what holds them all together. Of course, it's
please find me a Christian who doesn't hold the Bible as like their end all be all of.
There's lots of them. There's universalists and whatnot, and there's even people who call themselves atheist Christians. Okay, so there's a lot of variety in Christians. It doesn't mean that statistically speaking, they don't believe certain things on a statistical level.
Okay, so okay, it's fine. You know what? If we're gonna go with that route, that we have, we statistically we can survey Christians across the world, and we can statistically see how many of them believe in the rebirth of Christ and how many believed in the Bible, right? We can do that. Where is your statistics about SJWs? Where is your SJW survey showing me what SJWs believe?
Okay, I don't have that on hand.
Okay.
However, I'll give you a really good example of a belief that a whole bunch of SJWs.
Okay, but you're not going to actually give me the data to back that up, like we could for.
It's going to be obvious as soon as you hear it.
No. If we're gonna go down the route of we can figure out what Christians believe by taking a survey and all that.
So, all right, if we're going to go down that route, then where's your statistical survey of what Jeremy Hambley believes?
About what? About what he believes?
Yeah.
His videos, he talks about what he believes
in.
Many videos? Right? Like, does he not put out videos about what he believes?
How many videos of his have you seen?
I don't know, however, 5, 6.
Okay, so is that a statistically significant sample? Usually you need at least 30 observations. So no, you don't have it either. So what are you talking about, man?
So when Jeremy says, here is a thing that I find important, let me tell you about it, I can't actually know that that's actually a thing that he wants to talk about and is important because I haven't watched the rest of his video.
You're trying to apply the standards that I'm talking about in reference to groups to all manner of, inferences that we can draw from everyday experiences.
No. Well, what I'm doing is I am trying to apply the thing that you said about Christians and how we can find out what they believe and that we can find, because you're the one who said statistically they will fall into a group. And I'm trying to say that if we can do that to one group, we can do that to another group. And if you can show me that study about that other group, then I will listen to you about what that group believes. And then you turn that around and you bring it back to an individual. I don't know what these two things have to do with one another. Like, the individual of Jeremy has nothing to do with the group of SJWs and Christians, right? They're groups versus individuals.
Your video, your original video talks about this whole big problem of these anti-SJWs. So you're already doing it. You're already doing the same thing, okay? So anyway, we're kind of getting off on a tangent because my example is the patriarchy. The patriarchy is a belief in in something that SJWs have in spades, and most of the non-SJW world doesn't. Specifically, the Western invisible type patriarchy that kind of just is amorphously there. I'm not talking about like the Catholic Church or something like that, which is an actual patriarchy.
Okay.
You know, patriarchy theory, let's call it. Well, I mean, there's an example.
And you have that study showing that this is something that they all believe in.
Well,
or not all, but you know, statistically majority.
SJW's patriarchy.
Like that's all. If you're going to make generalizations about a group, at least have data to back up that generalization. That's like, I feel like that's not a big thing for me to ask for.
Then you should apply that to your own argument in the first
about
place.
An individual. You mean I should apply the same logic about a group to an individual? That makes no sense.
You talked about anti-SJWs as a group in your video.
Mm-hmm.
So where's your data about anti-SJWs?
So I've made several videos about anti-SJWs, and like I said, I've used Jeremy as an example.
Oh, okay. So you're allowed to provide examples, but I have to provide scientific studies. It's the double standard.
So okay. So your problem is with me saying this is a problem with anti-SJWs.
Sorry, what?
Your problem with me is that I said this is a problem with anti-SJWs.
No, I don't know who you're talking about with anti-SJWs. I could guess, but I don't know. And it's irrelevant because I know that the things that you said about Jeremy are untrue.
Okay, so you would prefer it if in the future in my videos instead of saying anti-SJWs, I just said the Jeremys of the world, or this is the problem with Jeremy, is that Jeremy
It would be better. It would be better if what you said was actually true. That's the real problem. Because what you said was clearly ignorant of Jeremy, of what he's complaining about in terms of the political issue of SJWism, let's call it that. And there is such a thing. I mean, it's like feminism. Feminism, you know, there's different kinds of feminism, but we could narrow it down and we could say there's a certain sub-branch of feminism that maybe we'll call SJW feminism. And it's causing problems in the world. And, you know, you're saying, whoa, this is all hysteria and it's not really happening. Well, where's where's your scientific proof of that?
So that it's hysteria?
Yeah.
The fact that you have a grown man complaining about the breast size of a girl on a TV show or a cartoon character on TV show.
Which you've admitted you don't understand the issues on this topic. You don't know the characters, you don't know the background, you don't know the
I don't know how knowing the character makes it less
in the context of how this kind of
So if I knew all the context, right? Like let's for a second pretend that I sat down and watched all the episodes of She-Ra, and I sat down and watched all of Jeremy's videos. That doesn't make him not that somehow, if I do all this, then me saying this is an adult man complaining about a breast size of a cartoon girl on TV takes a different significance.
It's a straw man. That's not what he's complaining about. It's a mischaracterization of what he's complaining about.
He literally showed a picture of someone else tweeting, "Where are her breasts?" and then complained.
So that's a quote mine then. You're taking you're taking one aspect that he criticized and you're saying that's all it is.
Did he not criticize a girl for having small breasts, a cartoon girl for having small breasts?
Who he thought was an adult character at the time.
After he read that it was a girl, he's like, no, this adult character.
Again, you can refer to 18-year-old, 25-year-olds as girls. It happens all the time. Now you're making a big deal out of nothing. Because you walk around outside, listen to people talk. Oh, that's my girl. Oh, this and that. They talk about girl like it's common language, man. Okay.
So he thought it was an adult woman with small breasts, and he was going to complain that wasn't okay.
That has been changed from the established character. Again, you keep going back to a very simplified argument that's a straw man. The point is not that this character, imagine this creator had created exactly the same character, but didn't call it She-Ra and didn't try to sell it as She-Ra, nobody would have complained.
I'm sure they would.
No, they wouldn't.
I'm sure there would be plenty of complaints about it because that's what's happening is people.
It's a complete unknown. The whole point of the outrage here is because it's an original character that's an established character. Fans love it, and you know, another example that bothers me about your complaint is that you assume that it's only men talking about how sexy they are. Well, what about
did I say that?
I don't know if you did.
Okay, there you go. I'm going to stop you right there, there.
Suddenly, you're concerned about what someone has actually said.
No. I'm concerned about what I said, right?
Oh, like, but not what Jeremy has said.
No, because here's the thing. Again, here's the thing. Like I've already pointed out, Jeremy did a very clever thing where he made sure that he said it without actually saying it, right? He himself doesn't actually complain about the breast size of this character. Instead, he shows an image of someone else complaining about the breast size of this character, so that he has an out, and then he can be like, hey, I didn't actually say that. Now, if you can point to me where I have done something similar, where I have somehow given you the idea that I am only talking about men, then we can talk.
I'll withdraw that because I actually don't know that.
Okay.
That popped out of my mouth. So I'll withdraw that. Okay. But you did give the impression that the main complaint is that it's the character has been changed so it's not sexy. And that's the real issue. And people only want to, you know, basically fap to it.
I mean, I didn't say that either, and I don't think that you have to have a sexy, you know, you what you do with your genitals at the privacy of your home is none of my business.
Okay, well then let's just leave it at sexy then.
Yeah,
you did use the word sexy.
I did use the word sexy.
Okay, now nobody has made that complaint.
No, instead they complain about her lack of feminine qualities like eyelashes and makeup.
Feminine is not the same as sexy.
And so forget it. If you're going to do this, right? If you're going to say that feminine is not the same as sexy,
it's not.
Then eyelashes is not the same as feminine. Then hair is not the same as feminine. Then body type is not the same as feminine. And I can do the same thing to you. And all the things that you pointed out were different about the new She-Ra as opposed to the old She-Ra. I could say, hey, those things aren't feminine.
All right. So let me see here.
So while you're looking up whatever, I'm going to read a few comments. Very few people love She-Ra. Wasn't a Sailor Moon an actual popular character and show? I prefer Sailor Moon. Not that that's I haven't watched enough Sailor Moon for me to be like a fan of it, but I prefer it. Fans are a small and not too lucrative group in Netflix intended audience. It's true. That's kind of what I've been trying to say is like, I don't think these companies care a whole lot about the politics as long as it doesn't hurt their bottom dollar. Like, I don't think they're out there to push a particular politics as much as they are to make money. And if that money happens to come from people who prefer a younger looking character, then that's what they're going to go for. Like, that's where they're going to go get their money. If their money comes from, you know, from people who prefer a different kind of art style, then that's what they're going to look for. They're going to look for whatever is going to make them money, which is why you have, if you pay any amount of attention to cartoons nowadays, you have these styles of cartoons that are just fucking everywhere. Like there's some styles that are more realistic, some that aren't, and it's done to make money, right? You're going to have one audience that really likes a style and another audience that doesn't. But if you cast a wide enough net, then you get to have everybody's money. Please don't let them watch actual anime. God, it's hard to actually find her age, but distinctly remember her being 15. She might be young. The Netflix
in the original, she was definitely an adult.
In the new one, the Netflix, at least from what the description says, calls her an orphan girl. Apparently we have different definitions of girl, so we're gonna go with that.
I don't obviously I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
I'm just going to read one more from It Happens, Sean, that some prefer A size. Also, there is porn actors who's very small tits, so small that even that I even have larger tits. That's also true, which is why, you know, if we're going to go down this route that sexy isn't feminine, then I'm also going to go down the route of you know, big tits isn't feminine, small tits isn't feminine, you know, makeup isn't feminine. Like
are you saying that sexy is an aspect of feminine? Sexy. I don't just mean beautiful. I mean sexy, like arousing.
No, I don't think being sexy is part of being feminine. No.
So then why are you ascribing that belief to other people?
No, because I think that what Jeremy was doing is using code words to complain about the characters not being sexy enough.
That's a fallacy. That's reading his mind. You don't know what he's thinking. You're just jumping to conclusions there.
If you want to make it that way, sure, but that's what I see him doing. Is he's going to complain, like I said, about her breast size, about her looking more like a boy, and all of his complaints were very like, which is why I've been wanting you to tell me what would make her more feminine, because either we can't come to a conclusion of what would make her more feminine, because feminine is such a amorphous term that we can add anything to it, right? Like,
I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that you're jumping to conclusions about what other people think about feminine, and you're inserting this assumption that they're looking for sexiness when really what they're looking for is the original character.
So the original character was feminine, and the new one isn't feminine.
Has been defeminized. Let's put it that way.
Has been defeminized, and the things that people point to her being defeminized are breast size, hair,
was, again, breast makeup. Size. Hold on, breast size was when we thought it was an adult.
Okay, but it's still breast size, right? Like, I'll give you that you thought she was an adult. That's fine. You still there was still a complaint about breast size, and because her tits were smaller, because her tits were smaller, she wasn't feminine anymore. The character
had obvious breasts, which are an obvious characteristic of females and humans. Yes. And the character doesn't, so it's a change. Yes.
And that change makes her less feminine. That smaller breast size makes her less
characteristic of females. So yes, of course it does.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep that in mind as that smaller breast size makes you less feminine. In adults. So, you know, those Keira Knightleys out there, they're just, God, it's not feminine enough for us.
You're treating it like an all or nothing. It's not. It's like evidence. It's like you know, what is a chair? You could say a rock is a chair if you really wanted to, because it's something you can sit on. Okay, it's maybe that's a chair, but there's other chairs that are more chair-like than rocks.
So yeah, Keira Knightley is less feminine than Angelina Jolie.
She has less obvious feminine characteristics. Yes,
so she's less feminine than the other one.
I'm going to phrase it the way that I think is technically accurate.
So here's the thing, and this is why I'm bringing this up is because
fewer feminine characteristics than someone who would look exactly like her but had big breasts. Yes.
So here's where I bring this up. Either this definition of feminine is like an experience bar that you fill, or not experience, it's a bar that you fill up and lower, right? Like something is or more feminine if you take away or remove some of these qualities, and it's a very strict definition of like smaller breast size means you are less feminine, so we're gonna take 5 feminine points away from your bar, or it's such an amorphous definition that it's going to come down to the individual whether something is feminine or not. So someone might find that a woman who is, a little bit more muscly and ripped is more feminine for his liking, or someone or a woman or a girl, in the case of Shira, who is standing tall facing her enemies is more feminine. But someone might find that someone with bigger breasts and maybe not as skinny or as fit is more feminine. In which case, it's so amorphous that sitting around complaining about it is kind of weird.
And now you're complaining about the people complaining. Do you see how that works? I mean, you can complain about, you can trivialize it as much as you want, because I can trivialize your complaint to right back at you. It's the trivialization complaint that this is not an important issue is irrelevant. It's not a complaint. It's not an argument. You're not making an argument. You're just saying it's not important to me.
I mostly said it was weird to complain about something, but if you want to say that I trivialize it, yes, I am trivializing it. I don't think it's important, and the reason that I say that it's not important is because Jeremy seems to think that it's very important.
What do you care about what Jeremy thinks?
It doesn't. So my whole thing is I make videos on the internet about whatever I want.
Okay, so he's doing that too. So what's your problem?
I can criticize the things that he says, and if he's going to make it, if he's going to say that it's a big deal, then I'm going to bring up that it really isn't a big deal.
So what's the point?
I mean, is that what we're going to end up as? Just nihilism? Like, what is the point?
Well,
Internet nihilism?
You're the one saying these things aren't important. I'm not the one.
I mean, if we're going to go down this route, then I mean, what is the point of you doing this hangout? What is the point of?
I do think it's important.
You think it's important that you think that
SJWs infesting various culture niches and whatnot.
So you think this is an important issue that needs to be dealt with, that characters aren't feminine enough.
Okay, you know what the real issue for me is? That when I came across you, I'm a fan of yours. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks.
This is my new account, so it doesn't show my entire history of how long I've been subscribed to you, but I've been subscribed to you for at least a year, probably longer, since the flat earth stuff, since I got into that. So when I came across this argument, I was like, this is such a terrible argument. I can't believe he's making it. Why is he making it? That's kind of what I would like to know. Like, if it's not that important to you, I can understand people, trying to fight against flat Earth, because it does have an impact on culture. It makes people stupider. People vote, so there's a consequence. There's a real consequence to that. Mm-hmm. So, but with this one, first of all, you're just wrong on the facts. Like and you ascribe things to Jeremy's character, and you accuse him of doing things that he hasn't done. And basically, it sounded to me originally like you had read like existing arguments on the pro-creator side of the She-Ra argument, and had come into Jeremy's video with those glasses on, like kind of tinting your interpretation as you were watching it. Now, it seems to me that's not the case. Mm-hmm. Maybe you had some other biases, but I still think you're basically biased about the issue. You don't know about it, you don't care about it, but you're commenting on it anyway. I just don't understand why. Like, what's the point? What do you care?
I make, like, that's what I do. I make videos on the internet
about stuff you don't care about.
I don't care about. So I guess we're kind of confused on the parts that I don't care. I don't care about the show. I don't care about, I'm not a fan. I care about the kind of message that Jeremy is putting out there. This SJW hysteria thing, where
interesting.
Where SJWs are now, have this conspiracy to take over colleges and universities.
Oh my God, there's a conspiracy?
There is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy theory that they're doing this, right? And I use it as an example of this kind of hysteria about taking something like a change to a cartoon character. And turning it into a big deal that is changes to cartoon characters happen.
So what would be the downside if you hadn't created the video? Like, what would be the opportunity that was missed?
For me, I don't know, a video for that week. I mean, try to make a video a week. That's my thing.
You said you were concerned about the topic, though, right? About this anti-SJW situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you hadn't made the video, would it be fair to say that you'd be concerned that this, this anti-SJW hysteria is spreading around without anybody speaking out about it, for instance? I'm just guessing.
So, like, what are you getting at? That, like,
I'm getting at that kind of concern shows that you are acting in a political way, and you're talking about another group who is also speaking out about a particular situation. In this case, it's SJWs infesting various niches in culture and changing them and basically killing them in a metaphorical sense. And that's political speech or activism in a way, okay? And you're doing the same thing. You're trying to influence culture too. And then you're saying, but why are they making such a big deal out of this? For the same reason that you're making a big deal out of it.
Except that there is no evidence for this SJW conspiracy, right? Like that's the big difference. Okay. Is there is no evidence. Like, so far, what we've gotten at is that SJWs are trying to make characters more feminine and less feminine, and all of this is part of the conspiracy. Like, your definition of this of this influence or SJW stuff is so broad that I can't even tell what is part of it and what isn't.
Okay. Let me find this article. All right. So, are you aware of the person who goes by the name of Diversity in Comics?
Yes.
Are you aware of their situation with Mark Waid and Antarctic Press?
No, I know.
Okay. Okay, so the long story short is Diversity in Comics. He's one of the voices about SJWs infesting comics industry. And he was getting pushback saying from these SJWs saying, well, why don't you make your own, you're just a failed artist, why don't you make your own comic book and put it on shelves, and if you're right about all this, then people will buy it. So he actually did that. He made a comic book, and he explicitly made it non-political, because his whole point is that people are sick of getting the politics being inserted into comic books. So I'm putting these links into your chat because I'm
trying to share them with the live chat as you put them in.
And so I don't know why this one's not formatting properly. Maybe it's my computer. No, that one's a little too in-depth. I won't bother with that one. Oh, wait a second. That one's bleeding cool. I might have given you the wrong one.
So I have an interesting comment here that I feel needs to be read. Melanie Dawn says, comics have always been political. X-Men, anyone?
Yeah, the problem is that this new politics inserted into it is not just part of an overarching story thread. It becomes the whole character, and it's not just a plot line. In fact, there is no plot a lot of the time, or the plot is very thin. It becomes diversity for the sake of diversity. So changing all these characters to various minority status, whatever you want to call it, diversity types of characters, and then that's what the character, that's the entire point of the character. Like, once again, the gay Iceman is a perfect example. They took an existing character that's been around for probably 50 years, and just like the snap of the fingers turned them gay out of the blue. And it's not like, oh, now this character is suddenly gay. No. It's all about that character being gay. So it's all about, you know, how does this person's love life go on and all this stuff. I don't know, because I haven't read it, but that's the complaint that's been given about bleeding cool.
I have another comment, and this one's directed at you, I think. Mr. Nell C says the problem is they're not his politics. I think your politics.
Whose?
Your politics. That whatever the politics that are being shown aren't your politics, and that's what makes you upset about it.
No,
it's not that there are politics in comic books. Is that it's politics that you don't agree with in comic books.
You know what? The funny thing is, I don't agree with most of the politics of people on the side of Comicsgate. Like, they're all conservative, and I'm pretty far left leaning. And the difference is the thing that brings us together is not about left and right politics. It's about authoritarian versus libertarian types of politics. So I would consider myself a civil libertarian type, and the kind of libertarian that you might call somebody who fights for civil rights, for instance. But SJWs, they're authoritarian. They want to be gatekeepers of the industry. So once they get hired, they tend to get into positions where they hire other people, and they only hire people who agree with them politically. And then they kind of form a clique. And this has happened it's not just in industry, it's been happening online in forums. You know, forums are pretty much dead these days, but back in the day, you'd get all these authoritarian types who become moderators of the forums and censor dissenting opinion and kicking people out of the forums and whatnot. And this is just an extension of that. Like, as I say, this is not in one area. This is kind of an academic ideology that's been brewing for decades and is now becoming a lot more popular. So I think this might be one. Yeah, here we go. This is a better one. So my point is that I don't agree with most of the politics of most of the people who are technically on my side here. Jeremy himself, although he gets called right wing by most of his enemies, he's not actually. He's more of a centrist, and he himself states that he has some liberal policy positions.
Mm-hmm. So here's okay. That's fine. Here's another. If you don't mind, since we're kind of, my show usually only goes 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And if you find this link, you can send it to me. But I would like to, at least because I don't want to just end the show. I would like to have because the audience seems to have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So I'd rather, if you don't mind, we turn to them and see some questions that they have. Jeffrey Bozer says, is it his argument, and talking about you, that all these SJW types are winning / succeeding? Their message is popular and sells is a problem? So is it a problem that all of these SJW things are winning, selling books and selling comics and selling TV shows and are becoming popular? Is that the problem?
No, it's actually kind of the opposite. They don't sell, and yet they push them, and this causes people to leave their industries. This is why what's that movie? The Star Wars one, The Last Jedi. People saw that, they hated it, and it's affected the future Star Wars movies, like the Han Solo one. It's affecting the comic books. All these comic books, Marvel's sales are getting worse and worse, and the industry is collapsing. It's happening in it was happening in video games to some extent. I think that the tide has been, or the flow has been stemmed there, but I think off the top of my head, I'm trying to do two things at once. So I'm losing track. So the point is that they come into industries, they make these changes, and they're not popular, but they don't get fired for it. So there's this one character. Okay, here I'll give you one character, definitely for sure. Squirrel Girl. Okay, so there's this one character called Squirrel Girl, and it doesn't do well. It doesn't sell very well, and it never gets canceled, and it always comes back. Why is that? Because the people who are in charge of projects at Marvel are SJWs themselves. There's another character, I think it's Ms. Marvel or Kamala Khan.
So as Jeffrey is pointing out, Last Jedi was immensely successful, and from looking at it, that's box office chart, it really was.
It was because people didn't realize that was the first win. That was not the first one, but that was the one that people ended up. I'm just giving you a Wikipedia link because I don't have a better link, but that was the one where people got turned off. They're like, I didn't like this movie, and so they didn't go to the Han Solo one after. They basically.
So this isn't this Star Wars thing isn't a matter of people being fed up with a new Star Wars every year. It's not a matter of the quality of the Star Wars movies. It's not a matter of the acting or the direction. It's a matter of the SJW politics that's inserted. It's got nothing to do with the other ones.
No, the SJW politics, when they're inserted, they ruin the quality because it becomes a preaching story all about that. You no longer have a good story. It ruins the story.
So you don't think there could be like a well-written SJW story that can't exist? Okay, so it's not. So then it's not the message; it's how it's written. Like you just admitted that we can have a good SJW story. So then it's not a matter.
No, I said you could. I said you could.
You could. So if you could, then it's not a matter of whether it's the politics that are in there. It's a matter of whether those politics that are in there are written well or not.
No, whether the story is good.
Or the story. Well, I mean, we could argue semantics about which one it is, but okay, it's not about the actual issue that they're bringing up. It's about whether that issue is tackled appropriately, or if it's if it's written well or the story is told well about that issue.
So it seems like you're going off on a tangent. I'm not sure how this is relevant to my.
Well, so if one of the variables as to why a movie is doing bad is that it talks about or brings up SJW stuff, right? Like that's one of the variables, right?
No. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, then I don't really know what you're saying, because like if it's a matter of like, so if it's not a matter of SJW things, and Jeffrey's bringing up exactly what I was about to bring up, is that there are what people would consider SJW stuff in popular movies like Black Panther and Wonder Movie that did really well. And so which gives me the idea that maybe you could write a good story about SJW stuff. So then it's not if you can write a good story, as let's for a second pretend that Black Panther is an SJW movie. If you can write a good movie about SJW politics, and you can write a bad movie about SJW politics, then it seems to me like the variable isn't the SJW politics, but it's the writing or the storytelling.
Oh, I see. Okay. There's a missing connection that I didn't state, I suppose. The thing is that because it's an ideology, okay, and you know how Christian rock just sucks? It could be good, but it just isn't. It's the same kind of thing. It could be good music, but the way they do it is so ham-fisted, and they don't have any creativity. And
there you said exactly what I'm getting at. It's the way they do it.
Yeah.
So it's not about the Christian part. It's the way they do it that makes it bad.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so then the same thing I would say applies to movies, curtain comics, kids shows or whatever. It's not the message, it's the way they do it that
Yeah,
makes
they
it
ruin
bad.
stories. They ruin stories. Yeah.
So I don't understand then what
SJWs are so ham-fisted in their quote-unquote creativity that they ruin stories. Specifically, they ruin established franchises like Star Wars, like comic books, like She-Ra, television shows, all sorts of stuff.
But again, it's not actual the
Video
politics,
games.
it's the way that they're writing it that's ruining it.
Okay, well, I do have disagreements with their politics as well, but if they can write a good story, and that's, you know, that's their story, I've got nothing against that. But the problem is when they take an established story and morph it and change it so that it no longer resembles the original story and it's a hand-fisted crap sandwich.
So I want to bring up this example again because I brought it up earlier. When there was the big change in Transformers when Beast Wars came out. So big change, right? No longer trucks. Now we have a gorilla. Fans were super pissy, and they just thought it was crap because of these changes to the aesthetic of Transformers.
Okay.
So because of that, those aesthetic changes, right, happen. Does that make Beast Wars a terrible show?
Honestly, I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Okay. Anyone in the audience who has watched Beast Wars knows that it's amazing. And it's loved by the modern day Transformers fandom.
So you have one example. I mean, the point is that.
Oh, well, all I need is one, right? If you're going to say that it happens every time, all I need is one to show that it doesn't happen every time.
But I'm not saying it happens every time. I'm saying this is what happens.
So it can happen that a well-written show that changes too much can be brought to ruins. Another great example might be Arrested Development. Have you seen Arrested Development?
No.
Okay, so the first 3 seasons are everybody really loves. Not everybody, obviously, but people really love the first 3 seasons. The same director came back to do a Netflix exclusive 4th season, which was just panned, and people just didn't like it. Okay. They changed too much. They didn't make it. It wasn't quite the same, so people didn't like it. Right?
Sure.
Right. So it's, oh god, now I forgot because I got into tangent here. I got distracted. So if we're going, so god, now what was my point? I'm sorry. I got into talking and entirely forgot my point.
I have ADHD, so I lose my concentration all the time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So no. Oh yes. So that's my point. Is these changes, right? Changing too much can make a show good or bad, but it has nothing to do with whether that show is SJW-ish or not.
So I guess what you're saying is they're somewhat independent factors.
Yes.
Okay, sure. But that doesn't mean that when SJWs change shows that they're not ruining them.
It also doesn't mean that when they do that they are, and that's my point.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right now, you've already judged the new She-Ra show as like a complete failure when it hasn't come out. Did you say it was ruined? You just said it was ruined.
When did I say that?
You like 2 minutes ago before I lost my train of thought. You were like, shows like She-Ra have been ruined.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well,
you can rewind and listen again. You will not hear me say that.
Okay, you didn't say that. Fine, whatever. So if yes, it's an independent variable of this. You have a bunch of variables. One of them is going to be SJW nonsense.
It may not be completely independent in a statistical sense, but it's more or less independent.
So you have a variable that that if you could throw in SJW nonsense into a show and it might turn out really crap, or you could throw SJW nonsense into a show and it might turn out really good.
Yep. And if you were to survey what happens when you do it, you'd find that on the whole, or on the majority side, it ends up typically making it into crap that people don't like.
And you think that that's because of the SJW nonsense?
No, it's because they changed the show.
So it's got nothing to do with the SJW nonsense, but you think that that's
because they're using the changes they're making are changes of inserting SJW politics into it.
So it is the SJW. Like you're just separating
It's
it
what
by a.
people like or don't like. If a show is about, let's say it's a video game about zombies, okay, and some SJW comes in and inserts a whole bunch of, or they change all the characters that are well known and loved, and now it's all about inclusion and how we have to include the zombies and everything. People be like, well, this is stupid. I don't want to play this game.
But you think
Do you see what I mean?
you keep flip flopping between
it's using the politics as the change, and
you.
the change sucks, and therefore people don't like it. They stop buying it, and the industry starts to die.
I feel like you keep flip flopping on whether this is a factor or not. But we have a question for you by Jelly Winksman, who says, "Okay, R&D, can you ask this guy if he knows Aliens was a feminist statement? I feel like this guy only thinks things he doesn't like can be filled with SJW politics."
First of all, there's different kinds of feminism, and that's why I'm using the word SJW. It's intended to mean a specific thing. So I'm not against all forms of feminism. And so perhaps it is. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe it is. If it is, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I loved Aliens. Alien and Aliens, even the third one I'll give it. So I don't see what the problem there is. They didn't ruin the movie, did they?
So, okay. And again, that gets back to my point that you can have a movie with strong, what some would consider SJW things in them and not be a bad movie, which makes me think that maybe that's not the factor that's making things good or bad. Right? That there might be another factor, and I would chalk it up to good or bad writing.
I think this is, okay. You seem to be trying to completely dissociate the two actions.
Yes.
But they're not. They're not. Someone comes in, changes, says, okay, well, Tony Stark has to die, and the new Iron Man is this teenage black girl who no one has ever seen before and has no established character, and is what they call a Mary Sue, who can never do anything wrong and has no challenges in life and wins every battle. And basically, it's a boring character. But the thing is, because it's a, for whatever reason, and I'm assuming that it's because it's a black young female character, they can't include character flaws. Like they're limited by their ideology. Yes. It's the same way that a Christian rock song is limited in what they can say. Everything has to be about praising Jesus and whatnot, and that's just boring. Nobody likes that.
Micro has a point here, which is pretty much what I've been saying, that's not SJW, that's just bad writing.
But SJWs are bad writers.
Except that we've already established that there can be good SJW.
But there aren't very many.
But there can be, so you can't say SJWs are bad writers when there are examples.
It's possible that somebody can write some good Christian rock. I've never heard it, but it's possible.
Yeah, there probably is. And just so
maybe there is, but the vast majority of it sucks.
Okay, again, but you are saying SJW writing is bad.
No, SJW writers are bad.
SJW writers are bad, even though there are examples of SJW writers that we have presented that are good or at least popular.
Who?
Here's one. Frozen got brought up. Same question with the movie Frozen.
Okay, brand new characters. Did they take established characters and morph them?
Again, SJW story, right? We entirely subverted the.
I didn't see it.
Okay, but it's popular. You know that it's popular. There's no way that you don't know that it's popular.
Sure, but I don't know that it's SJW either, because I think you guys might be thinking that anything feminist or anything with diversity as a value is SJW. That's not the case. SJW is a political stance. It's not just about diversity and whatnot. It's an authoritarian political stance where they try to force their ideology onto you. Just because Christians say, God is love or whatever, doesn't mean they have a monopoly on love. Same thing with SJWs.
Okay, you have a very interesting definition, which I guess is a better definition than most people have of SJWs. So good on you. Because I honestly don't know what the definition is of SJWs besides the thing that I don't like.
Okay, so let's look that up. SJW, social justice warrior, pejorative term for an individual who promotes socially progressive views, that should probably be in quotation marks, including feminism, civil rights, multiculturalism, as well as identity politics. That's probably the worst offender there. The accusation somebody's an SJW carries implications that they're pursuing a personal validation rather than any deep-seated conviction and engaging in disingenuous arguments. That's a fairly good representation. Yeah. I would say it's about thinking that you can achieve social justice, which I'm for, but thinking that you can achieve it in the mentality that it's a war, that you got to win by being a warrior. And so anybody who's not with us is against us. And it becomes very destructive. And if you want to talk about people who become the things they're trying to fight, it's the social justice warriors. They become the ones, they accuse everybody. If you disagree with them, well, you must be a racist, a misogynist, a homophobe, whatever. They use these social bullying tactics to attack people. And that for me, that's more of a defining characteristic of what a social justice warrior is. It's how they behave and the beliefs and values that they have that they use to justify those behaviors.
See, and I would say that what a lot of what Quartering did is that where he doesn't agree with the changes, so he's going to throw a fit about it. It's a reactionary thing, which is why I said
I think you're jumping to conclusions because you don't have enough context and haven't been paying attention to the issue.
Let's see. Any other questions, guys, before we head on out? Oh, here we go.
So I just want to show one thing here. It's so here's a perfect example where you get the people in the media, the reviewers in the media give Star Wars a 90%, and that's largely, I haven't seen this movie, but I did see a thorough breakdown, a review of it, a critique of it, and so I would say my hunch, I would wager, my hypothesis is that the reason it got 90% is because this story embodies an SJW type of like value system. Like they're pushing their politics on to the story of Star Wars here, and because they're doing that, the reviewers who are basically a lot of people in journalism happen to be SJWs, not all of them obviously, and there's conservative and other types of media, but I would wager that a lot of these reviewers who gave it positive reviews gave it for those reasons, whereas the audience gave it like 46% because the story sucked.
So I mean, there's a lot for me to break down here. For one, I mean, it's not like we've ever had other movies come out in the past with disparaging scores between the fans and the critics ever, right?
All right. How about
that's never happened in the past? So
how about Ghostbusters?
Yeah, no, it never happened. It never happens that fans like something that critics don't, or vice versa.
You see, you're assuming it's not part of a pattern.
No, I'm assuming that it's not part of a conspiracy. Like you have found these disparaging points and you have tied them all together very loosely with string, and you're not calling it a conspiracy, probably because I think you understand that you would sound a little nuts if you did that, but it's pretty much a conspiracy that you've created, that all of these people are in on it and they're all doing it on purpose, and it's definitely not for benign reasons, that critics and fans have not always aligned themselves when it comes to movies. It's not possible that even a more possible solution, which is still conspiratorial enough, is that maybe Disney bought them off because Disney needs good scores, and even that is still a little bit better than saying there's this giant conspiracy to take over the media,
Um,
or that there is or that the
you know
media
what?
has been taken over.
That story is a little bit stale, and I don't have the links to back it up. So I'm gonna ignore that one for now. Okay, this one is a lot more specific. Okay, and this one you can look up and read about, and there's going to be a lawsuit about it soon, probably. So as I was saying, this guy, Diversity in Comics, developed this comic, Jawbreakers, and as to basically rise up to the challenge that the SJWs were giving him, that you're a failed artist, blah 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 blah. You know, put up or shut up. So he did, and he got a deal with this Antarctic Press, which is a small publisher, and it's official. We're publishing Jawbreaker September. Well, this word got around about this, and it was later discovered that there was a group, like a Facebook group. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, what's this here? So Bruno Batista. These are people who are known in the industry. Are any of the publishers putting out the Diversity in Comics book? All of these people dislike Diversity in Comics. They think he's a Nazi and all this stuff. So I thought he was all Kickstarter. So, but if I'm wrong, I'll 1000% drag any publisher interacting with them in a quote unquote professional capacity. Respect, I kind of doing the same. Drag and dunk as loudly as possible, and I'm real loud. So this person's the owner of a comic shop, certainly SJW. There's a whole other story about how that shop got closed down because they weren't making any money. People giving advice on how to, deal with customers. You can read it on your own. I think I gave you the link. Now here's the real story. This Mark Waid, he's a very famous comic book artist. I think he's an artist or a writer maybe. And he says, I have a call into Antarctic Press. Until I hear back, I'm hesitantly willing to give them benefit of the doubt that they don't really understand who or what they're dealing with, they're getting into business with, which, though it would be a stretch, it's a possibility. If I do hear back, I'll report in. Curious as to how they feel about publishing creators whose marketing strategy is allegedly encourage their fans to threaten employees of stores and or harass and one-star review bomb stores that don't order the product. As we as creators responsible for actions of are we as creators responsible for the actions of our fans? Ultimately, of course not, but blah, blah, blah. So basically, this guy, he works for Marvel, I think. Yeah, Marvel. And he's a very famous writer and has lots of work to his name and a lot of clout. Like, he's one of the top. So basically, he hears about this deal that this independent guy has developed with Antarctic Press. So he decides he's going to call up Antarctic Press and give him an earful. And not only that, but he was also part of okay, well, I can't find it here. I don't want to waste all your time. But basically, he was stirring up people, getting people to, start spreading the word and building up an internet rage mob, or whatever you want to call that. So he calls them up. The store and the owner get all sorts of calls. And the owner, essentially, it's a small shop, and he has it's a kind of a side project. He's actually a physician, and so he gets these calls and this call from Mark Waid, and lo and behold, within less than 24 hours, they pull out of the deal. Now, this is out in the open. There's evidence of this, people going after other people's business. And I don't know if you know this, but this is actually quite like, we don't have all the details, but assuming that Mark Waid was spreading lies, like some of the lies here, that the guy doesn't actually do this. If he was defaming diversity in comics over this, and that led to the cancellation of the contract, that's against the law. It's called tortious interference. And this is the thing I'm talking about, where there may be a lawsuit coming up about this. And so this is an example of SJWs directly acting out in the open in some cases, behind the scenes in other cases. This stuff up here was a private Facebook group, and this picture got leaked. So they're actively conspiring. What else are you going to say? I mean, it's in the open, but they're still organizing together and trying to invoke some social pressure to prevent something that they see happening. Now, the funny thing is, these are people who said, hey, why don't you publish a comic? And then he goes and publishes it, and what do? Well, they intimidate the publisher so that the publisher withdraws. So I don't know. There's tons of evidence of this stuff all over the place. Get on Twitter, follow some of the people, you'll see it all over the place. So I think you just haven't been paying attention to what's been happening, and perhaps you just don't care about the situation that much because it's not a hobby of yours. It's somebody else's hobby.
So take this as an insult if you want. I don't, it's all up to you. But when you say that, when you say things like you're not paying attention, or you don't care enough, you really do sound like a conspiracy nut. Like, you really do sound like you're telling me that I'm not woke, that I need to just look, right. Like, this is the same kind of sentences that I get all the time from flat earthers, that I just need to look at the evidence. If I just paid more attention, I'd notice.
But you admit yourself that you weren't paying attention and don't care.
Okay, but you understand that that's more or less what you're doing, right? Like, you're just like, flat earthers will also tell me that, like, you're obviously a chill, you're obviously not paying enough attention.
Okay,
you'll admit that you're not paying attention. You're like, I will admit that I don't care much about flat earth stuff. I just do it for the lulz. But that's,
you do care. I mean, you care about. I mean, you said it yourself that you don't want. Well, I don't. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Okay, I'm paraphrasing. But basically, you don't want this kind of ignorant stuff going around because it's not good for society, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So, you say you don't care about it, but you do care, but then you don't take enough time to actually research it. Now, just because a flat earther says, well, you don't take enough time to research flat earth, okay, and they're stupid, but that doesn't mean that in this case you haven't researched.
No, what I'm saying is that,
and you don't know.
No. What I'm saying is that you are doing, just because you might be right that I just need to do more research, right? It also could be that that this isn't actually evidence of anything. Like, that's my point, is you just claiming that I need to do more research doesn't actually do anything. It's you. There's probably a fallacy for that.
But dude, you're the one who was making claims in the original video about Jeremy and all these anti-SJW people. And you're the one making a positive claim that anti-SJWs is all a bunch of hysteria. Okay? Now, where's your evidence of that?
About it all being a bunch of hysteria?
Yeah.
I would say the fact that people are complaining on the internet about the breast size of girls on cartoon girls shows that it's a bunch of hysteria.
So your example is, again, the same straw man that we've already gone over.
Sure, if you want to call it a straw man, fine. I'll let the audience decide. I don't want to have that argument again because we've had it like twice. But if you want to call it that, that's what you can call it. I'll let the audience and the people watching it decide if it's a straw man or not. But that I would say is my evidence.
Okay, so your evidence is something that you interpret as hysteria, which, again, like, the problem is you're making a claim. Okay, you're making a positive claim, not just about these amorphous anti-SJWs on the internet. You're making a claim about a specific person, and you're claiming that they do things that they actually haven't done, and you haven't shown evidence that they've done it. And I called you out on that in the comments. You made claims that they said things that they didn't say, like about it being about sexy, and he never said that. Okay, so if I was the one making the claim, like that the Earth is flat, and saying, well, you just haven't looked into it, and then the other person's like not making a claim at all, that, you know, basically you're just going with the mainstream evidence that the Earth is round, then that's not a problem. But the problem is it's not that way. You're actually making claims that are false. So you can try to turn this around to being about me and my claims, but that's not actually the issue. That's not why I came on here. That's not why I brought up these arguments. I brought them up because I saw you making bad straw man arguments that I know that you're better than that. I've seen you argue way better than that, and I don't understand why you would do that. Maybe you have a bias that you don't know about, so I spoke up about it.
Okay, and that's fine. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna let the chat and the audience decide on their own if they think that I was doing a straw man. We've already talked about it, so if you want to listen to it, that you can, or if you have been listening to it, you already know the arguments on both sides. So I just don't want to retread ground that we've already treaded like twice before. That's all. So with that said, I think we are half an hour past my usual end time. So I am going to end it there. You don't have a YouTube channel, so you can't really plug yourself.
I do, and I do. It is Inverse Hyperbolic Tangent, but I haven't put any actual videos up yet. But I do plan on actually developing it at some point. But whatever.
So if you would like, email me that link, and I'll put in the description. If you watch this and you think that you'd like to watch more of Inverse Hyperbolic Tangents stuff, or if you put out other stuff later on, go for it. Links will be in the description. I know you said you're kind of an anti-flat earther, so I don't know.
I've been in the whole atheist and skeptic universe or internet verse since about 2001. So
yeah, so there might be something about that on that channel. I don't know, but you can plug yourself.
I do have playlists if people are interested in that, but anyway.
Okay, so there you go. Well, send me that link, please, and I will put it in the description. Other than that, that is going to be today's show. That's gonna do it, guys. We will hopefully be back to our normal schedule starting next week. But thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you everyone in the chat. You were all had some very interesting questions and commentary. Thank you all for being here. Thank you Inverse Hyperbolic Tangent for showing up. Most people honestly don't show up when I invite them on here, so thank you for doing that. I really do appreciate it, even if we disagree a whole lot.
Yeah, well, the main thing I wanted to do is have a civil, discussion about it. And, we don't see eye to eye, but that's fine.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, thank you, everybody. You all have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all next time.
Bye.